You know, it's a weird thought, but your data kind of has a passport now. Seriously, in today's world, your personal info isn't just free to wander around the internet anymore. Nope, it's now subject to laws, borders, and yeah, even the politics of the countries it travels through. Today, we're going to dive into this new reality, where the whole borderless dream of the internet is smacking right into the very real walls of national sovereignty.
So, how in the world did we get here? And maybe more importantly, where are we headed? In this explainer, we're going deep on these new digital borders. We're going to break down the key terms you absolutely need to know, look at the one regulation that basically changed everything, see how a major economic region is dealing with it all, and check out the tech being built to handle it. Then, we'll ask the big question: what's next?
We all talk about the cloud like it's this, magical, misty thing floating up in the sky. But here's the reality. The cloud is just a bunch of super powerful computers sitting in a very big, very real building somewhere. And that somewhere, the actual patch of dirt that building is on, is becoming one of the most critical factors in our entire digital lives. Right now, countries all over the world are building digital walls around their data. But why? Well, it's simple. Data is the new oil. It's this incredibly valuable resource, a strategic asset that nations now want to control. So they're passing laws that act like digital customs agents, deciding exactly which data can come in, where it's allowed to stay, and who gets to take a peek at it. And this isn't some niche issue. Just look at that number. 137 countries have laws on the books governing your data. That means the next time you click I agree on some website, you're not just agreeing to their terms. You are also, without even thinking about it, agreeing to the laws of whatever country that company's servers are sitting in. Okay, so how do we even start to make sense of this new world of digital borders? Well, it all begins with understanding two key ideas that sound really similar, but are actually worlds apart: data residency and data sovereignty. Let's get this straightened out.
All right, think of it this way. Data residency is like the address on your driver's license. It's just a simple fact about where something physically is. Data sovereignty, though, that's more like your citizenship. It determines which country's laws you have to follow no matter where you are in the world. So one's about geography, the other's all about legal power.
So how did we get to this point where it feels like every country needs its own rulebook for data? Well, a lot of that chain reaction was kicked off just a few years ago by this little thing out of Europe you might have heard of called GDPR. GDPR wasn't just another regulation. It was an absolute bombshell. Back in 2018, the EU's General Data Protection Regulation didn't just write a new rulebook. It completely changed how the world thinks about data. It basically declared that privacy isn't just a nice feature to have, it's a fundamental human right. And the shockwaves from that one idea are still reshaping the entire internet. So what gives GDPR its global teeth? Well, it comes down to a few core ideas. First, like we said, it frames privacy as a human right. Second, it gets really specific about who's responsible: the companies that collect the data versus the ones that just process it. Third, and this is the big one, it creates this sort of approved list of countries, blocking data from going to places that don't have strong privacy laws. And the real kicker? It applies to everyone. If you have just one customer in Europe, guess what? GDPR applies to you. End of story. Okay, so that's the theory. But what does all this look like in the real world? Let's zoom in on a really fascinating case study: the Gulf Cooperation Council, or the GCC. This is a region that is right at the bleeding edge of the global digital revolution. The GCC is the perfect laboratory for watching this all play out. You've got these 6 nations all racing to shift their economies from oil to data and tech. But here's the thing. Every single one of them is taking a different approach, creating this really complex, fast-moving puzzle. And you can see the different strategies they're betting on right here. Bahrain went all in on a strict GDPR-style model. Why? To send a giant signal to the world that it was a safe place to invest. And it worked. They landed a massive Amazon Web Services data center. Saudi Arabia and the UAE, on the other hand, are kind of playing it differently. They're locking down key industries like finance with tight rules, but leaving other areas more flexible to try and spark innovation. It's this constant balancing act between control and growth. This quote from the Middle East Institute really just nails the core difference. It highlights this fundamental split in philosophy. While Europe's approach is all about the individual's right to privacy, a lot of the motivation in the GCC is about security, protecting the country's critical infrastructure and its citizens from cyber threats. Okay, so we've got a world full of competing laws and digital borders. For any global company, this is a massive headache. So how do you actually, deal with it all? Well, this is where the engineers and architects roll up their sleeves because technology is providing the solutions.
The business world's response has been pretty much unanimous. Get this, 93% of companies are now using more than one cloud provider. And for a lot of them, this isn't a choice anymore. It's an absolute necessity. It's really the only practical way to follow all these different data laws around the globe. You strategically put different kinds of data in different clouds in different countries.
This whole trend has led to one of the most important new ideas in tech, the sovereign cloud. The concept is actually simple, but it's incredibly powerful. It's a cloud environment that is physically, legally, and operationally built from the ground up to keep a nation's most sensitive data inside its own borders, subject only to its own laws. So how does a company actually make this happen? Well, Tech Mahindra came up with a pretty straightforward three-step plan. First, discover. You got to know what data you have and sort it out. What's sensitive, what's regulated. Second, build. You don't just cross your fingers and hope you're compliant. You literally engineer the rules right into your software. And third, automate. You build systems that are constantly watching your data, making sure you stay on the right side of the law in real time. And this whole thing is powered by some really clever tech. Think of it like this. Zero Trust is like a security guard who checks everyone's ID every single time they go through a door. No exceptions. Geofencing is like a digital velvet rope that only lets people in from approved locations. And localized key management means even if someone steals your locked safe, the key to open it is stored in a totally different secure building. It all works together to create a digital fortress.
So where is all this headed? You've got these laws, these national strategies, this new technology, and they're all pushing us toward a huge fork in the road that's going to define the future of the internet itself. Are we moving toward one global network? Or are we headed for what some people are starting to call a splinternet, a patchwork of digital nations?
The future of the internet is really at a crossroads. We started with this beautiful vision of a single, borderless global community. But now, as data becomes the most important asset for national security and economic power, we're facing a choice. Are we going to keep going down this path, breaking things up into a splinternet of digital nations with hard borders? Or can we find a way, both legally and technically, to build a world that is globally connected and still respects national sovereignty? The choice we make is going to define the digital world for generations.